Wife secretly plotted with my brother to take my inheritance. Now, they're furious I turned the tables. Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be posting here, but after what just happened with my family, I don't even know what to do anymore. So, here goes. My name is Lucas, I'm 36, male, and I have an older brother, Jake, 40. Growing up, it was always us two, but there was always this weird, unspoken competition between us. You'd think it'd ease up as we got older. But no. If anything, it's worse now. Our dad, Mark, 65, recently had a health scare. He's been one of those old-school, alpha male types his whole life. You know, the kind of guy who never asked for help and thought emotions were for the weak. He didn't raise us. Not really. Mom did most of the parenting, but Dad controlled everything else, especially the money. We never knew how much he was worth, but we knew it was a lot. Real estate, stocks, some businesses, he was always working on something, always hustling. And now, he's sitting on this massive inheritance. And my brother and I both know that that's the end game. This whole thing kicked off when Dad started hinting at writing his will. He's never been direct with us, but you know he started those conversations. It was pretty clear this was about who gets what, and that's when shit hit the fan. Jake, being the older brother, always had this entitlement. He thinks everything is his. The house, the land, the businesses, all of it. He doesn't even try to hide it anymore. But here's the kicker. I think Dad's leaning towards me. I've been the good son, keeping my head down, doing my own thing. Hell, I got a family of my own now. I have a wife, Sarah, 34, and a daughter, Emma, 8. I'm just trying to live my life, you know? But Jake? He's been a screw-up since forever. Got into some shady deals, debts, he's a mess. It all boiled over at this family dinner a week ago. Dad sat us all down, me, Jake, Sarah, our mom, Linda, 63, and dropped a bombshell. He's giving us a test, as he called it. He wants to see how we handle things before he writes the will. He's giving us each control of a business. Jake gets the bar Dad's owned for decades. I get the construction company he's been building for the last 15 years. But here's the catch. The one who handles it better inherits the real prize. Everything else, the houses, the stocks, the assets, all of it. And Jake, he lost it. Freaking flipped out right at the dinner table, started yelling about how unfair it is, how he should get the whole pie because he's the firstborn. He's always pulled that I'm the eldest card. Like, dude, this isn't the Middle Ages, shut up. But I can see it in his eyes. He's not just pissed, he's desperate. He knows he's screwed if this is a competition, because while I've been keeping my shit together, he's been burning through money like he's trying to set a world record. I've never seen Dad so cold, though. He just sat there and watched like he wanted this chaos. Like he's setting us up to destroy each other. Jake stormed out, slammed the door, and now. We haven't spoken since. So now I'm sitting here wondering, am I supposed to play this game? Am I supposed to crush my own brother for this inheritance? Because that's what it feels like Dad's just turning us against each other for his amusement. What the hell do I even do? Part of me feels guilty, but part of me knows if I don't take control, Jake will run this family into the ground. And Sarah? She's telling me I need to go for it. She's always had a strained relationship with Jake. She thinks I'm too soft on him. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now. A freaking test for our family's future, and I don't even know if I want to play. But I feel like I have to because if Jake gets his hands on everything, we're screwed. And yeah, I feel bad for my mom in all of this, but she just sits there like she's trying to hold the family together while the whole thing falls apart. Any advice? Because I'm seriously losing it over here. Update 1. Alright, so it's been a few days, and I figured I'd update you guys on what's been happening. You know how I said Jake stormed out of that dinner? Well, turns out that was just the beginning. I went to see the construction company Dad gave me. Hadn't really paid much attention to it before now. I thought it was just some low-key side project he had going, but when I walked in there, I realized it's huge. I'm talking contracts with the city, private builds all over the place like this thing is a monster. The potential here? Insane. It hit me that Dad wasn't playing around when he handed me this. He's setting me up for something big. But then here's where things get messy. Jake, being Jake, couldn't stay away. A few nights ago, he showed up at my house. He was drunk, of course, and starts going off about how I don't deserve anything, how Dad's always favored me because I'm the good little boy, whatever. He said I was lucky he didn't take me out when we were kids, like, what the hell, man? But here's the part that really screwed with me. He tells me that Mom, she's been hiding something. Apparently, I'm not even Dad's biological son. Yeah, according to Jake, Mom had an affair right around the time I was born, and Dad just swept it under the rug. Jake said he overheard them fighting about it years ago, but Dad decided to raise me as his own anyway. I didn't believe him at first. I mean, that's some messed up shit to just drop on someone, especially when you're wasted. But then I started thinking about all the weird little comments Dad's made over the years. How he's always been distant with me, but so freaking hard on Jake. And Mom? She's been weirdly quiet lately, almost like she's afraid to say something. So now I don't know what to think. If Jake's telling the truth, it means this whole test is a joke. I'm not even part of the family, at least not the way Jake is. But if he's lying, it's just another one of his twisted attempts to screw with my head, make me back down so he can win. I don't know what to believe anymore. Sarah thinks I should confront Mom, but I'm not ready for that conversation yet. What the hell am I even supposed to say? Hey Mom, remember that affair you had? Let's talk about that. You know. So now I'm stuck. Do I go to Mom? Do I just pretend Jake never said anything and focus on running the business? And what if he's right? What if I'm not Dad's kid? Does that mean I lose everything? I don't know, guys. I'm freaking lost right now. Update 2. So, after a few more sleepless nights and a lot of pacing around the house, I did it. I confronted Mom. Well, tried to. I waited until Dad was out running errands and caught her in the kitchen, just the two of us. I couldn't even look her in the eye at first. I felt like a damn teenager again, caught sneaking out past curfew. But I asked her straight up, is Jake telling the truth? The second I said it, I could see her whole body tense up. She didn't even need to answer. The silence, the way her hands shook just a little as she set down the dish she was washing. It was all the confirmation I needed. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet. She said it was a mistake, that she regretted it every day, that Dad had forgiven her, and that they'd moved on. We didn't want you to ever feel like you were less than Jake, she said. But screw that. How am I supposed to not feel like less now? My entire life, I thought I was Mark's son. Turns out, I'm just a product of some affair that everyone's been sweeping under the rug for decades. And the worst part? She wasn't even crying. It was like she'd already come to terms with it years ago. I was the one freaking falling apart in the middle of the kitchen. I yelled. I never yell at my mom, but this time I did. I told her everything. How Jake threw this at me. How it's messing with my head. How I don't even know who I am anymore. And you know what she said? She said it doesn't matter. You're still our son, she said, like that's supposed to make up for the fact that they've been lying to me for my entire freaking life. I left. I just walked out and drove around for hours. Couldn't even go home to Sarah and Emma. My phone was blowing up with texts from Mom, but I ignored them. I needed to breathe, needed to think. But here's the real kicker. When I got home, Sarah was waiting for me, and she already knew everything. Apparently, Jake called her, told her about the affair, about how I'm not Dad's biological son. The freaking gall of that guy, going behind my back to get into Sarah's head like that. She looked at me like I was some fragile little kid who needed to be handled with care. She said, Lucas, we need to talk about what this means for the inheritance. That's what she's worried about. Not how I'm feeling, not how screwed up this is. No, she's thinking about the money, about what happens if Dad decides that I'm not his anymore. I lost it. I snapped at her, told her that I don't care about the money, that I'm freaking drowning here, and all she cares about is whether we get our cut. We didn't talk for the rest of the night. I crashed on the couch, then I'm starting to wonder if Jake's playing a longer game than I thought. He's been a screw-up his whole life, but he's smart when he needs to be. By getting into Sarah's head, by getting me so off balance, he's screwing with everything. My marriage, my confidence, my ability to run this freaking business. And I can't shake the feeling that Dad knows all of this, that this whole twisted test is just him pulling strings, seeing how far he can push us before we break. The worst part? I'm starting to feel like I'm losing. Not the inheritance. I don't even know if I care about that anymore, but everything else. My family, my sanity, my freaking identity. And Jake? He's sitting somewhere, probably drinking himself into oblivion, knowing that even if he goes down, he's taking me with him. I don't know what to do anymore. Every time I think I've hit rock bottom, the ground just crumbles beneath me again. Update 3. You ever feel like you're stuck in some screwed up game, and no matter what you do, the rules keep changing? That's where I'm at right now. Everything's spiraling, and I don't even know how to stop it. So, get this, after the whole disaster with Mom and Sarah, I decided I needed to talk to Dad. I figured, hell, if I'm not his biological son, he should be the one to tell me what that means, right? I went over to the house, half expecting another bomb to drop, and of course, Dad was sitting there like nothing had happened, flipping through some financial reports like he didn't just blow up my entire existence. I sat down, and I didn't waste any time. I asked him straight up, does it matter to you that I'm not your biological son? He looked at me, put the papers down, and said, what do you think? Classic Dad, right? Answering a question with another question. I pressed him. I told him that Jake's been using this to mess with my head, that I feel like I'm just playing this game for nothing if he doesn't even see me as his real son. And Dad? He just shrugged, said that blood doesn't matter, that he raised me, that he's always considered me his son. But the way he said it, it didn't feel like reassurance. It felt like he was testing me, like he was waiting to see how I'd react. He told me that the business, the construction company, is still mine to run, and that how I handle it will determine my future. What does Jake have to do with any of this? He asked, like Jake wasn't out there actively trying to destroy my life. But that's not even the worst part. I was about to leave when he dropped this little gem. Don't think you're the only one I'm watching, Lucas. I'm watching Sarah too. Sarah? What the hell does she have to do with any of this? I didn't get an answer. Dad just smiled and said, "You'll see." I left the house feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. What does he mean he's watching Sarah? Is she part of this twisted game too? Is he testing her, seeing how loyal she is? Is she, I don't know, working with Jake somehow? The paranoia is eating me alive at this point. When I got home, I asked Sarah if Dad's been in contact with her. She looked at me like I was crazy and said no, but I'm not so sure. Things have been tense between us since the last blow-up, and now I can't help but feel like there's something else going on. I'm losing my grip on everything. Jake's pulling strings from the shadows. Dad's got some secret plan that probably involves watching us tear each other apart. And Sarah, I don't even know what she's thinking anymore. She says she's on my side, but is she? Or is she just waiting to see who comes out on top? I've got this gnawing feeling in my gut that I can't shake. Something big is coming, and I don't think I'm ready for it. Update 4. Okay, buckle up because shit just went nuclear. I didn't want to believe it. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid, that Jake was messing with my head, that Sarah was still on my side. But after last night, I'm not so sure. Jake showed up again, but this time he wasn't drunk. No, this time he was calm, collected, and smug as hell. He came by the house while Sarah was out, and I almost slammed the door in his face, but something about the way he was acting made me stop. He wasn't there to fight. He had something to say. He walked into my house like he owned the place and sat down at the kitchen table, just like old times back when we used to get along, before all the shit with the inheritance, before Dad turned us against each other. He looked around, smiled, and said, "You really think you've got it all figured out, don't you?" I didn't even answer. I just stared at him, waiting for whatever bullshit was about to come out of his mouth. And then he dropped the bomb. Sarah's been meeting with Dad. Behind my back. For months. Apparently, she's been going over to the house, having these little secret meetings with him. Meetings she conveniently never mentioned to me. Jake told me that he found out by accident. Caught them talking one day when he went over to try and smooth things over with Dad. He said he didn't think much of it at first, but then he started putting things together. The way Sarah's been pushing me to go after the inheritance, the way she's been acting like this is some kind of business decision instead of a family war. I didn't want to believe him. I still don't want to believe him. But the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. Sarah's always been ambitious, always thinking about the future, about security, about making sure we're set for life. And Dad? He's always liked her, maybe even more than he likes me. He's never had a daughter, and I guess he sees something in her that he respects. But what the hell are they talking about in these meetings? What's the plan? Is she working with him to cut me out? Is this some long game to make sure she's taken care of no matter what happens with the inheritance? I don't know what to do. I'm sitting here writing this, and I feel like I'm losing my mind. Jake left with that stupid smirk on his face, like he knows he's already won. Like he's just waiting for me to implode. And maybe I am. Maybe this whole thing is breaking me down, and that's exactly what they want. I don't trust anyone anymore. Not Jake, not Dad, not even Sarah. What the hell do I do? Update 5. I confronted Sarah. I had to. There was no way I could sit on this anymore. After Jake left, I waited for her to come home, and as soon as she walked in, I asked her straight up, "Have you been meeting with Dad?" She didn't deny it. She looked shocked for a second, like she didn't expect me to know, but then she just nodded. Said it wasn't a big deal, that they'd only been talking about the future, about what happens if things go south with the business or with Jake. I asked her why she didn't tell me, and that's when things got ugly. She said she didn't want to stress me out, that she was trying to protect me. But protect me from what? She wouldn't give me a straight answer. Just kept saying that Dad's been worried about me, that he's trying to make sure I don't get screwed over in the end. But I don't buy it. Not for a second. I told her that I feel like I'm being played, that everyone's got some kind of agenda, and I'm just a pawn in whatever game they're playing. She looked hurt, genuinely hurt, but at this point, I don't even know if I can believe that. I don't know if I can believe anything anymore. We argued. Hard. She said I'm letting Jake get into my head, that I'm being paranoid, that I need to focus on the business and stop worrying about what everyone else is doing. But how can I? How can I just ignore the fact that the two people closest to me, my wife and my father, have been having secret meetings behind my back? I told her that if she's not honest with me, if she's not on my side, then we're done. I can't live like this, with all these lies and half-truths. She stormed out, said she's going to stay with her sister for a while. So yeah, That's where I'm at now. My brother's trying to destroy me, my wife might be in on it, and my dad's sitting back, watching us all tear each other apart. I'm starting to think the only way out of this is to walk away from everything. Just cut ties and start over. But can I really do that? Can I really leave behind everything I've worked for, everything I thought I was fighting for? I don't know, Reddit. I'm at the end of my rope here. Update 6. I thought things couldn't get worse. I was wrong. Sarah hasn't come back. It's been a week, and I've barely heard from her. She's staying with her sister, and every time I try to call her, it goes straight to voicemail. I don't even know if she's planning to come back at this point. And honestly, I'm not sure I want her to. I've been focusing on the construction company, trying to throw myself into work and distract myself from the shit show that is my personal life. But it's not working. Every day, I'm just more and more on edge, waiting for the next bomb to drop. And then yesterday it did. Jake showed up at the construction site. I didn't even know he knew where it was, but of course he does. He's always had a way of getting what he wants, even if it means stepping on everyone else in the process. He walked in like he owned the place, just like he did at my house, and started talking to the guys like he was in charge. I pulled him aside and told him to get the hell out, but he just laughed. "You really think you're going to win this, Lucas?" he said. "You really think Dad's going to let you take it all?" I told him to leave again, but he just kept going, saying that I'm not cut out for this, that I'm too soft, too weak. And then he dropped the final bombshell. He knows about Mom's affair. But here's the thing. He's known for years. He's been holding it over Dad's head, using it to manipulate him. He told me that's why Dad's been so distant with me, why he's been giving Jake more and more chances, even when he's screwed up. Jake's been blackmailing Dad with this for years, and Dad's been letting him get away with it because he doesn't want the truth to come out. I was shaking. I wanted to punch him, but I couldn't move. I was frozen. He said it so casually, like it was no big deal, like this wasn't the thing that's been tearing our family apart for decades. And then he left, just walked out like he'd won. I don't even know what to do anymore. Update 7. I've spent the last few days trying to piece together what the hell is happening. I feel like I'm living in some twisted nightmare where everyone's pulling strings behind my back, and I'm just here, stuck in the middle, trying to figure out which way is up. Sarah's still gone. I haven't heard a word from her, except for one text, and it wasn't even an apology. Just, "We need time to figure things out." Figure things out? What the hell does that even mean? I'm starting to think that she's been in on this from the beginning. She must have known about Jake's blackmail, must have seen this whole thing unravel way before I did. Hell, maybe she even encouraged it. And my dad? I haven't spoken to him since Jake dropped the bomb about the blackmail. Every time I think about calling him, I get this sick feeling in my stomach. If he's been letting Jake manipulate him this whole time, then what's the point? He's probably just going to deny everything and keep playing his little game, watching as we tear each other apart like some sick experiment. I've always known Dad had a cruel streak, but this is beyond screwed up. I've been going to the construction site every day, trying to keep my head down, trying to run the business like Dad wanted me to, but the tension's building, and I can feel it in the air. The guys on the site know something's up. Hell, I'm sure half of them have seen Jake showing up unannounced, acting like he's got some sort of claim to the place. I can see the doubt in their eyes. They're wondering how long before everything blows up, how long before Jake pulls the rug out from under me. And here's the kicker. I'm starting to think they're right. Because the more I think about it, the more I realize Jake's been playing me this entire time. Every move I make, every decision, I'm just reacting to him. He's not dumb. He's reckless, sure. But he's always had a knack for turning people against each other. It's what he's best at. And here I am, doing exactly what he wants, losing my mind while he picks up the pieces. I don't know how much more I can take. Update 8. Okay, so I did something I'm not proud of, but honestly, I'm out of options. After Jake's last visit to the construction site, I started digging. I needed to know exactly what I was up against, and if Jake was going to play dirty, then so was I. I called a guy I know, Greg, 39 male, who's good with, let's just say, finding things out. I asked him to look into Jake's recent moves, see if there's anything I can use. I felt like a damn spy, skulking around, but what else am I supposed to do? Jake's been holding the family hostage with secrets for years. If I'm going to survive this, I need some leverage of my own. Greg came through. Big time. Turns out, Jake's not just a screw-up, he's a criminal. He's been embezzling money from one of Dad's side businesses for years. I'm talking hundreds of thousands, maybe more. And the best part? He's stupid enough to leave a paper trail. Greg found bank transfers, shell companies, the whole 9 yards. If I bring this to Dad, Jake's done. Not just with the family, but legally too. He could go to jail for this. But here's the thing, I don't know if I can do it. I've been sitting on this information for 2 days now, trying to figure out if I want to use it. I mean, Jake's an asshole, but he's still my brother. Can I really send him to prison? Can I really blow up my family like this? And then there's Sarah. I found out from Greg that she has been meeting with Dad. She's been trying to secure a future for us, for Emma, in case things go south with Jake. Apparently, Dad's been hedging his bets, seeing who'll come out on top, Jake or me. Sarah was trying to make sure we didn't get screwed if Dad decided to cut me out of the will. She says she did it for us, but honestly, it feels like betrayal. Like she's been playing both sides, waiting to see who wins. That I confronted her about it when she came back to the house yesterday. She didn't deny it, just like last time. But this time, she didn't even try to justify it. She just said, "You don't understand how high the stakes are, Lucas. I did what I had to do." And maybe she's right. Maybe I've been too naive, thinking I could play this straight and still come out on top. But here's the thing. I'm not naive anymore, that I've got the proof on Jake, and now I have a decision to make. Do I blow him up? Do I finally end this stupid game and take what's mine? Or do I try to find another way out? I keep thinking about what this will do to Emma, to our family. But then I think about all the crap Jake's put me through, all the lies, the manipulation, and I don't know if I care anymore. I feel like I'm standing at the edge of a cliff, and the only question is, do I jump or do I pull someone down with me? Update 9. All right, it's done. I went nuclear. After days of agonizing over it, I finally made the decision. I called Dad and asked him to meet me at the construction site. I didn't tell him why, just said I needed to talk. When he showed up, I laid it all out. The embezzlement, the shell companies, the proof. I handed him a folder with everything Greg had found, and then I just waited. Dad didn't say anything for a long time. He just sat there, flipping through the papers, his face unreadable. I thought he might explode, might start yelling, but instead he just looked up at me and said, "I always knew Jake would screw himself over. I just didn't think it'd be this bad." That's when I realized Dad's known. Maybe not the details, maybe not the specifics, but he's always known Jake was up to something. He just didn't care. He let it happen because, in his mind, Jake was still his son, his blood. And I was just the one he kept around to see how far he could push me. But here's the twist. Dad didn't care about the money. He didn't care about the embezzlement. What he cared about was control. He told me that if I wanted to take Jake down, I had to do it his way. No police, no courts. Just a quiet deal. Jake would lose everything, disappear, and Dad would keep the family's reputation intact. I didn't know what to say. I felt sick. All this time, I thought I was fighting for something real, for my place in the family. But no, it was all about power, control. Dad didn't give a shit about who was right or wrong, who deserved what. He just wanted to see who was willing to play the game by his rules. And me? I played right into his hands. I agreed to the deal. What choice did I have? If I didn't, Jake would drag the whole family down with him, and Dad would cut me out just as easily. So now Jake's gone. He's out of the will, out of the family, and as far as I know, he's running off somewhere to lick his wounds. Sarah? She's still here. We've talked, but things aren't the same. I don't know if they ever will be. She says she did what she had to do for Emma, for us, but part of me wonders if she was just playing her own game, just like everyone else. As for Dad, he's still in control. He's promised me the business, the assets, everything. But now I know what it costs. I don't feel like I won. Update 10, final. It's been a month since everything went down, and I figured I'd give one final update. Jake's gone. He's off the map, somewhere far away, and honestly, I don't care anymore. I don't feel the same anger I did before. It's like I've been drained of all of it, like there's nothing left to fight for. I've got the business, I've got the inheritance, but what did I really win? A life built on manipulation and lies? Sarah and I are still trying to figure things out. We're civil for Emma's sake, but the trust between us? It's shattered. I don't know if we'll ever get back to what we had before all this. Maybe we never really had it to begin with. Maybe we were both just playing parts in this screwed up family drama. Dad's still Dad. Cold, calculating, always 3 steps ahead. He calls me more now, talks about the future, about expanding the business, about keeping the family legacy strong. But every time I hear his voice, I remember how easily he let Jake go, how easily he let this whole thing fall apart. I guess that's the real lesson here. Family isn't about love or loyalty. It's about power, control. And now that I'm the one holding the reins, I finally understand what it means. I didn't win. I just survived.